Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the On Time On Target Morning Brief. Everyone, welcome to the On Time On Target Morning Brief. Today, we're going to talk about some of the initial tax reform that President Biden is throwing out there. And again, when you put this into context of the bigger picture, we had stimulus so far, and vaccine have been kind of the major headlines going into moving the market. We have the stimulus pass, checks are flowing out this week. We had the big Federal Reserve meeting, which wrapped up yesterday at 2 o'clock Eastern. You had Chairman Powell saying exactly what I thought he'd say yesterday. Nothing's changed. Still rates are going to stay at zero until 2023. I think it'll actually be past that. You know my thoughts on that issue. But kind of putting the specter of inflation, not necessarily behind us, but put those fears at rest for right now. And we'll come back to those, right? When we've got nothing else to do, we'll start freaking out about inflation again. But we're shifting the narrative now more towards the tax reform that the new administration wants to get underway. It appears they're going to do it in waves, which is smart, as far as smart being enabling themselves to get things done. And again, they're targeting the 400,000 and above income crowd, which I think is the upper, if I saw it, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's upper 1.7% of the population. So again, fairly targeted here. And then again, we'll have this, and then we'll see what flows out of that. I personally thought that they might wait until more towards the end of COVID and the normal society and economy returns before putting into tax potential tax reform. However, it does not appear that that's going to be the case. So there's two sides to that, right? You can be mad that taxes are going up, or you could be happy that we're finally raising some money to pay for all this stuff that we've been giving out as far as the free money. So there's both sides of the coins there. But how will it affect the market? I think it is now at the beginnings of a headwind. So you have to kind of mitigate your expectations as far as the overall market. And generally, when you have to think of the overall market, may not be as strong as it would have been without tax reform in play. You have to get a little more focused on some individual names or ETFs or themes or however it is you particularly invest. But you tend to have to focus that portfolio a little more, and you do have to add in some de-risking stuff. So we're going to talk about some de-risking names, which you're probably going to say, hey, that's boring. But Realty Income, Blackstone, Target, Dominion, how to put real estate in your portfolio. Some of the things we don't normally talk about, and you're not going to go all out on these names, but you're going to start seeing some safety creep into your portfolio from here. As far as tax reform, we'll get into that, the specific numbers of it here after the open. But we'll kind of review what the initial proposals are on the table and go over how those will affect the market. As far as if you're catching us on replay, thanks for checking us out. Go ahead and click the subscribe and notifications bell. And if you want to join us live, there's a chat room as well as a Q&A room for folks to ask me questions so I can handle them real time. With that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Make sure you have your chat window and your Q&A window set up appropriately with your call sign put in there. Standard disclaimer applies. This is a financial education presentation, so you have to do your own due diligence on everything you hear this morning, as well as checking out the full disclaimer at ototnow.com. All right, here's our lineup card for today, Thursday, March 18th, day after St. Patrick's Day. Hopefully you are able to get out and enjoy that to whatever extent you choose. All right, our mission objectives today: grow our money, protect our money, and live off our money. Similar to yesterday with inflation talks and interest rate talks, was protect our money. Today, again, we're talking about protecting our money from a potential, again, it's only one of the forces that'll be competing with the market. So you have the vaccine force, which as the vaccine rolls out, everybody gets vaccinated by May. That carries the market higher because you got the economy carrying the market higher. You've got the stimulus checks being invested for a lot of people who don't need it to pay bills, right? So if you're fortunate, and that money flowing into the market, so lots of tailwinds, if you will. But then again, tax reform is now going to act as that one of the headwinds that's out there. And I would say probably the major headwind towards the end of the year when I think we see the next, wave two, if you will, of tax reform. All right. So just when the long-term investor topic of the day is, what is that initial tax proposal? Let's talk about it briefly now. And then our question of the day is, what are the limits on IRAs? So if you haven't done your Roth IRAs, your traditional IRAs, you now have until May 17th. Remember yesterday, the IRS moved the tax filing date from April 15th for everyone to May 17th. So you have a little more time to negotiate your IRAs. But if you haven't sat down and made your plan, do so. Contact me if you're with me and we haven't done it yet. Otherwise, yours should be good to go. All right. The initial tax proposal, again, Biden's talking about taking the individual top tax rate for more than people that earn more than 400,000. I think he means joint. There was some clarification that after he did his press conference, does he mean individuals making that much, or does he mean couples? And I think he means couples, but we shall see. More information to follow. But right now, the top tax rate is 37%. It would restore the top tax rate back to 39.6%. So an increase of 2.6% there on 1.5% of the population out there. There's a itemized deduction cap that's going into place. That's likely. There's a payroll tax for Social Security right now. You know that if you up to 142,800 that you make you pay Social Security on, and then you don't pay above that. All right, I see a question there. We'll get to that here in a little bit. You don't pay Social Security tax above 142,800. He's saying, or he's proposing, that there's a donut to where you wouldn't pay any more taxes into Social Security until you hit that 400,000, and then you would resume paying into Social Security. So again, it would be the high income earners that are kind of subsidizing, if you will, Social Security there. So we'll be interested to see if that gets passed. I could see a lot of bad blood on that one. And then the last thing we'll talk about is the taxing capital gains as ordinary income for those earning more than $1 million a year. Well, here's the gotcha: is folks that are living primarily off their portfolios, they don't really make income. So it's kind of I don't know how many people that would actually catch, right? But we shall see. And then raising the estate tax to 45%. I think something will be done. I don't necessarily know if that's going to pass. But anyhow, those are the thought processes that are going out. So the question in the chat room is, if a person turned 50 in January this year, are they eligible to put an additional amount for last year? No, they're not, right? So it's the calendar year that you turn 50. So in the example thrown out here in the chat, a person turned 50 in January of 2021. 2021, they would be eligible for the extra 1,000. 2020, they would not. So good question there. All right, continuing on with our lineup card, we'll do a market review, do a headline review. Here's the names we're going to take a look at. Now, it's hard to say individual stock names that are safe, right? Because a company could always miss earnings and always move lower. But basically, when you think of rock solid positions in your portfolio for individual stocks, Realty Income, Blackstone, Target, Dominion are all strong names as far as strength of balance sheet. Again, they'll still move on a daily basis. PPTY is a good way to get exposure to real estate and real assets in your portfolio. Then GAA is a global allocation fund that I like to kind of take it from. Most of our portfolios have been U.S. centric for a decade, 2 decades. From a diversification standpoint, that's basically speeding, right? And we've been doing it intentionally for all the right reasons, but we might have to back off of the U.S. centric, based thesis a little bit by going with the GAA to at least spread assets out all over the world. And again, GAA is a developed international funds. You're not putting your money in Venezuela. You're putting it in China and India and Europe, the names that are supposed to be doing better, if you will. All right, we'll talk around the short-term execution around the market open. Contingencies and academic resources are standard. Let's go ahead and take a look at the S&P 500 real quick. And move some windows around here. Let's see where we are. Obviously, yesterday was a down day. We'll look at that in particular there, but you can see basically still in an uptrend overall. Today is set up with the NASDAQ dropping almost 2% pre-market, so we'll keep an eye on that. When you zoom in, here's the S&P 500. Here's where we closed. I'm sorry, yesterday was a green day. It was red all the day, and then it ran up after the Powell announcement. So my bad. It was a green day, but largely after the 2 p.m. Eastern. That's when the whole move was made. So basically, where are we at the open today? We're back where we were before Powell took the mic yesterday. So not the end of the world, just giving back gains of less than 24 hours ago. So don't sweat that. Now, if we roll over today and end up with a minus 3 or 4% day, then that will be more noteworthy, if you will. All right, let's take a look at the headlines real quick at CNBC.com. Toggle over and check the futures here. I'll refresh this for you. So there you can see the biggest move there down is in the NASDAQ at 1.78%. Europe was they're not in the green anymore. They were heavy into the green earlier. Looks like they've started to slide a little bit as well. Asia is in the green across the board. Here's our numbers from yesterday. Well, actually, they're not there. But VIX, again, VXX long. If we start selling off today, consider VXX long. The VXX was below 13 last time I looked. Bonds continue to march higher, right? So 1.742 on the 10-year. Is it going to move all the way to 2? I don't think so. I think it peaks here, but I thought it was going to peak at 1.6, and it is not. So just why we keep an eye on it every day. Oil, I heard an interesting stat. Retail oil, i.e. gasoline into your car, if you still have cars that use gasoline, has increased for 45 straight days. And it's the first time it's done that in over a decade. So kind of an interesting note there. But I do think oil has topped here, and I think it'll settle back into its 40 to 60 range. As a kind of a historical note, remember last year around this time, oil was worth 0. Yeah, straight 0, right? Gold and silver have been selling off a little bit, and then crypto was up nicely this morning. Bitcoin up at 58K. All right, let's take a look at the headlines for this morning. Got a bad jobs number that'll help. That will lean more towards selling off. Again, 770,000 jobless claims versus 700,000 expected. 14-month high in the 10-year. We just talked about that. Okay, here's you can read all about tax reform that we talked about this morning. I just gave you an overview. There's all kinds of articles out there this morning on what it would look like, what the first tax attempt will look like for the Biden administration. There's your official delaying of the IRS filing date for this year. So if you're a procrastinator, you win another month of procrastination. Okay, let's take a look at FinViz real quick before we set up for the market open here. Let me get the longs and shorts. I just have longs for you today: Hexo, OLN, VCell, and Luckin, if you dare. Those are names we're going to be talking about here at the open. Nothing short, even though the market looks like it's going to sell off. Here is Realty Income. This is one of these names that when you look at it is pretty much rock solid, right? It's channel bound between 57 and 63. But when you look at its payout, it's paying at a 4.4% dividend. So this is one of those that it is real property. It is commercial real estate, but it's rock solid and, nice, big, sweet dividend. When you look at another name that falls in this category is Dominion. Dominion's a little better as far as the entry price that I like here. And again, bounced off of 68, dropped yesterday, but buying into Dominion here isn't bad either. Looking at a 3.44% dividend. And, I don't see a whole lot of downside in the name. So anyhow, a couple names to consider there, and that's all we're going to talk about today. All right, let's set up for the open. We're within 1 minute of the open here, so we'll get set up. There's your Luckin up at $9. It'd be nice if that held. Hexo is my number one long. We'll take a look at that. They had an earnings beat. And then the next one we're going to have looking at is OLN, which is a continuation from yesterday. So we'll see how it opens. All right, 30 seconds to open. Give me a second to get set up. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the On Time on Target play of the day. We have 4 longs for you to take a look at. We have VCell, Hexo, OLN, and Luckin Coffee. Displayed, you have 3 screens. You have the S&P 500, which is going to open in the red here to the left. We have Hexo long, which is my favorite. Trying to come in there. You see the opening bell. It's kind of sold off here down in the 3.2 range, so we may flip out of that. And then we have OLN, which also that's a continuation from yesterday. So really focusing on Hexo this morning. They had earnings. They beat earnings significantly, and they guided up significantly. So kind of surprised this is selling off this morning. When I say they beat earnings, you do see the minus 0.028 cents. So they're still losing money. So they're not profitable, but they are, it was a lot better than they expected there. So expect a 10-cent stop here on Hexo. We're going to look at the low of the day, which again is around that 794 range right now. So we'd like to get into this name at around the 805 level and be able to cover the low. We'll see if we can or not. It's kind of flopping around here, so we do have to watch it. They're just established a new low, so we're going to let that go for a second. OLN's moving the other direction. I don't necessarily like that. Let's check out VCell. Okay, they're up 12% from 52 to 52.75. That's kind of a tough entry. All right, still looking at the entry in Hexo. Maybe 805. We're going to have to use a 15-cent stop, which I don't like, but we're going to do it. No, we'll do a 10-cent stop. That'll give us down to 795. 805 to 795 is what we're looking at. We're waiting for it to hit, and again, we're going long on Hexo. VCell just keeps screaming higher. We should be in that, but we are not. Did not get a good entry there. All right, still waiting for 805 in Hexo to be able to enter this. I'm going to make just a small note here so I don't have to stare at it. There it is. 805 is the entry point. 807 if you snagged it a little bit late there. Down to 795 is what we're going to use, a 10-cent stop. Otherwise, we'll never hit the 3R point. So we're going to 815 is your first R. And then it's 825 and 835 is going to be your exit. So as far as your lower stop is at 795. So we get an arrow in here. We're going long. Get the arrow drawn. And again, the upper stop is 835. So we're into that trade. So we'll take a look. Okay, VCell's taken off already. Let's take a look at Luckin and see if it held that $9. It'll be a little optimistic if it did, but well, yeah, check it out. So 898, so it's getting close to that $9 range. Would really like to see Luckin get higher than $9, and again, of course, then hold that would be nice. Remember, Luckin was up at $12 not that long ago, so it's realistic that it could do that. All right, there's our second R point, 825 for Hexo. So again, entered at 805, lower bound at 795. We're looking for 835 on the exit. It could run up there pretty quick and touch that is what I'm hoping for right here, actually. Okay, OLN is another name, OLN. This would have been a continuation. Obviously, it didn't continue in order to give you the entry, so there's no way to lose money in that. But OLN was up like 7% yesterday, and you know, doing pretty well. All right, 835, there's your exit. So boom, out the door at a 3R on Hexo. And depending on your entry, right? I would say go ahead and exit it. Exit it here, even if you got a sloppy entry up at 807. I don't see any reason to hold this, even though it looks like it may continue to scream higher. But to recap this trade, again, entered at 805 in that ballpark. We said it, we couldn't quite set it below the low of the day. That's, you know, 790, because that would have been a 15-cent stop, which I don't like. Then we watched it basically in a matter of 1, 2, 3. So two to 3 minutes there exceed our 835 exit point, and it continues to go higher. So again, no reason to hold it, even though it is continuing to go higher. Laser, yeah, that's the name we're in. Luminar, we'll pull that up. LAZR. Laser's kind of been primary. Looks like it's selling off a little bit, but you're right, it was gapping up earlier there, Apex. So LAZR is one, and VLDR is the derivative, if you will. Both of those are light detection and ranging companies used by a lot of the self-driving cars that are out there. So those are kind of the two big names in the space. All right, day trade is complete. Let's go ahead and back out to what's going on in longer term investments. Got Laser that Predator brought up there. REAXF, NMDBF. This is Neon Mind. Went into this yesterday, so let's talk about that a little bit. It's a penny stock, if you will. Well, let's just pull it up. It's a little easier that way. NMDBF, very speculative. Again, penny stocks, you can see the lower price point here. Again, this is part of the psychedelic, using psychedelic drugs to unleash the mind to help with PTSD and integrating in with society, that sort of thing. So speculative, don't know if there's a future there or not, but there are definitely some believers. There's Luckin, Bank of America, JP Morgan. Alibaba was down earlier. It's bouncing nicely. That's good. All right, so some names in the green. Let's take a look at what's in red today. Some Apple calls are in the red. That means Apple's probably in the red somewhere. Trade Desk selling off hard. Zoom, Fubo, these are a lot of your high-flying names. MongoDB, Neo selling off. Twilio selling off. Palo Alto Network selling off. Shopify, Tesla. Goodness, all the faves, right? So I don't see Apple in here yet. I saw it bouncing around down here. Apple almost 2%, Roblox down or close to 2%. So yeah, so tech heavy, which we are, pretty well going to be big red numbers so far today. All right, let's go back to here and check out overall the SPY's down 0.66. Let's see where the NASDAQ is. Down 1.5. So we have that, and then see if the VXX has shot up yet. Not really, right? It held below 13. So one would think, well, that doesn't make sense. The VXX should be going long, and it is not. And I agree with you. That's all I can say about that. All right, let's go back to our question of the day, and that is in relation to the IRA contribution limit. So good question earlier about the age. So let's talk about some other things. You have until the tax filing date to be able to set up your IRAs for the previous year. So that allows you to, especially if you're right around that $200,000 income level, it allows you to do your taxes, draft your taxes, if you will, and then so you know your modified AGI, and then you can go back and figure out what you need to do. Can you go directly into a Roth IRA? Can you do a backdoor Roth IRA, which again is making that non-deductible contribution into your traditional IRA and then immediately converting it? That works like a champ unless you have a traditional IRA already. If you have a traditional IRA, then if you do that, you are going to be taxed on a portion of that money. If you do not have a traditional IRA, then you will not be taxed. So it behooves you to get rid of your traditional IRA. If it's 50 grand, you can simply convert it and pay the taxes. I say that, not everybody's may be able to do that. If it's 500 grand, you may not be able to sit there and look at a tax hit of that level. But then, those are personal decisions you'll have to check out. So again, like we talked about earlier, 6,000 is your limit, even for 2021. But 2020 is the same, right? And then once you're old, like me, over 50, you get another 1,000 you can put in. Our Roth IRA, again, it starts at 194,000 is when your income, again, starts fading out, and then it's just over 200,000. If you're in that range, you need to pull the exact numbers and take a look at it. Your TurboTax will do that for you if you're in that range as well. If you over contribute, that's no big deal. Now, I will say that you are legal to, even if your income is over 200,000, you can put 6,000 in your Roth IRA against the rules for current year, because you don't know the future and you don't know that you're going to be able to be working all year, and leave it in the market for like 15 months and then take it all back out the following, before you file. Don't even bother with that strategy. Again, ethically, that's a challenge, and it's just a pain for what you would gain mathematically. So don't do that. So people have been asking about that. It's like, well, yes, you can. I don't want to be any part of that, doing that. So if you project out that you're going to be more than 200,000 or in that ballpark, just wait for the whole year to get in the rearview mirror, collect up all your W-2s, 1099s, whatever you have coming in for income, figure it out, and then decide on what to do. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, the lower level, I can't remember the exact numbers, but that's why TurboTax always asks you if you contributed to an IRA, because you can get a retirement and savers credit. And again, I want to say that phases out around 40 to 50K. But certainly if you're one of the younger ones in the room and you're just getting a job for the first time or a summer job while you're at college, you might be hitting those sorts of numbers, so you'll get credit for that, right? So it's like a double benefit for contributing to your IRA. Okay, we're not going to get into the details of the backdoor Roth IRA. Here's one that a lot of people don't understand, that if you have a stay-at-home spouse, which I do, a traditional homemaker, if you will, that is not earning income is what all of that means. As long as I or the person in the household that is earning income earns more than 12,000 or now 14,000, you can contribute to both your own and your spouse IRA. So a lot of people leave those off the table, and then their spouse doesn't have this nice big six-figure IRA that you have. Well, just realize you can do that from day one. As soon as you're married, as long as one of you is working, you both can contribute. A stay-at-home spouse is not penalized for staying at home, right, and taking care of the household. Okay, here are those numbers I talked about. So 2021, it went up to 198,000, where in 2020 it was 194,000, and it phases out at 208 for 2020. I think it phases out at 204 for 2020. I think I said that backwards. 208,000 for 2021. I think it was 204,000. Anyhow, if you're in that ballpark, pull the exact numbers. There's numbers if you're single. 125K, so pretty decent income before you get phased out there if you are single. Okay, that is it. That is all I'm going to talk about as far as IRAs. If you haven't done your IRAs for the year, then let's talk. If you have done it, then good on you, and we'll talk about it next year. With that, I'll close out for today. Again, a nice trade this morning. Hopefully, we'll see the market hold where it is here, especially the NASDAQ and the tech names. If not, reverse, right? Instead of continuing to sell off. With that, we'll see you back tomorrow morning. Have a good one. Bye.